A young archaeologist named Eric worked at the local museum, and his job was to study ancient civilizations. One day, however, he received an offer that could change his whole life. He was asked to conduct research in a very dangerous cave system called the depths of the Infernal World. Eric was prepared for such an exploration, and he was confident that his experience and knowledge would help him achieve his goal. On the way to the site, he read all available material on the subject and studied maps of the caves so that he would be aware of all the dangers and locations of valuable artifacts. When Eric and his team finally arrived at the site, things seemed serene. However, after advancing a few meters into reality, there was a final deep dive into a dark world of pain and suffering. The caves proved to be far more dangerous than they thought. The naked walls concealed a horrific history of the depths of an infernal world, posing to the living the threat of the immense masses that had been generated by the collapse of an ancient civilization. In the endless wandering depths of hell, Eric and his team encountered mystical phenomena every day, with every step they took. Their discoveries were so maddening that they had to choose between this horror and moving towards salvation. The extraction of riches and the reading of the knowledge of the dead so far beyond their meaning. In life, they also discovered artifacts that piqued their curiosity and prompted endless questions. Each artifact was powerful in its own right, and opened before their eyes the terrible secrets about turning people into spirits and about controlling them. But when they were on the verge of getting their hands on an important artifact that had the power of hope for all the living, they discovered an ancient evil. Eric came face to face with them and found with bitter sadness that he and his team were victims of their own curiosity. The ancient evil proved to be stronger, and the curse became something Eric and his team could not handle. They plunged into a world of seemingly irrevocable doom, guided by the terrible forces of an ancient evil. Flowing shadows that of course ruined both fellow archaeologists and carried them away into the abyss. It was unclear how long Eric had just been in this world of carnage. Suddenly he was headed toward a huge bloody gate that led him into the depths of the infernal world. There they met death, darkness, and exhaustion, which made Eric stop and ponder what matters. After all, he felt someone touch his arm, which looked like a dream. Eric didn't know how long he had been there, but he knew he had to leave this world in one piece. Eric turned to his team and saw that they had all entered this world with him. The teammates decided to look for a way out of this world, which was obviously an impossible task, at least for those who had been chosen. Eric and the team tried to find a way out, but to no avail. They were cut off from the world of the living. They could not find the fate of survival as this danger had no foreseen end. Despite all of the above, Eric and his team did not give up and continued to search for a way out. They went on, took what they could find with them, and kept moving forward, ignoring the terrible threats and evil spirits that followed them everywhere. They encountered many trials, but they did not stop moving, trusting only in their wits. Eric finally discovered a tricky niche and sent his team into it so they could wait it out while he continued forward and searched for a way out. Eric continued to go deeper and deeper until he met an old spirit who managed to convince him and open the door that led him back to the world of the living. When Eric returned, he invited his team together to tell them what had happened to them in this deep infernal world. They were surprised when Eric told them about his adventures and how he had managed to see his way out into the world and come back to them. Eric said that the way back was incredibly difficult, but they prevailed and met their salvation. Eric and his team no longer risked their lives or ventured into the depths of the infernal world. They continued to work at the museum, but their new experience only reinforced their belief that sometimes the dangers are worth risking your life for. The Smith family decided to spend the weekend at a lake in the middle of nowhere. They packed their tents, sleeping bags, food and drinks, and set off. Along the way, they met locals who warned them that the water in the lake had turned black and mysterious. However, the Smiths paid no attention to this and continued on their way. When they arrived at the site, they found that the water was indeed black and had an unpleasant odor. But they decided to ignore this and began to swim. Soon they noticed that their skin began to change color and turn black. They were frightened and decided to get out of the water. However, when they got out of the water, they noticed that their bodies began to change. Their skin became hard and black, and their eyes became red and glowing. They began to feel intense pain and began to scream in pain. They realized that the water in the lake had been affected by a mysterious disease that was beginning to change everyone who entered it. The Smiths tried to escape, but they were too weak to run. They began to cough and gasp, and it became clear to them that they were dying. They asked the locals for help, but they refused to help them, fearing for their lives. The Smiths died a few hours after they hit the water. Their bodies were found on the lake shore, and the locals decided never to go near the lake again. They never found out what caused the mysterious disease that plagued the lake's water. After the Smiths died, local authorities launched an investigation. They sent water samples for analysis to find out what caused the mysterious illness. But the test results were shocking. Unknown viruses and bacteria were found in the water that had never been seen before. The local authorities declared a quarantine on the lake and prohibited swimming in it. They also warned locals that the water in the lake was dangerous to health. But not all residents heeded the warning and continued to swim in the lake. A few weeks after the Smiths' deaths, the locals began to notice strange changes in their bodies. They began to change their skin color. Their eyes became red and glowing, and some began to exhibit aggressive behavior. They also began coughing and panting, and it became clear to them that they had contracted a mysterious disease. Local authorities began evacuating residents and closed access to the lake. They also sent blood samples from those infected for testing to find out how quickly the disease was spreading and how it could be stopped. A few days after the evacuation, local authorities received the test results. It turned out that the disease was caused by an unknown virus that was highly contagious and had no cure. The local authorities declared a state of emergency and began evacuating all residents within 50 kilometers of the lake. However, when they arrived at the site, they found that all the residents were already infected. They began to show aggressive behavior and attacked other people. The local authorities had to use force to stop the spread of the disease. A few months after the Smiths died, the entire area was evacuated, the lake was abandoned, and local authorities began research to find out what caused the mysterious disease. However, they were never able to find an answer to the question. The black water remained a mystery that remains unsolved to this day.